Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the March 1st, 2011 Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen Sewer Commissioners meeting. First order of business is to call, we need a clerk this evening. If I could have a motion for a clerk.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to have Kara be the clerk for the evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's 4-0-0. Mr. Cruz can't be with us this evening. He's recovering from surgery, and we wish him a speedy recovery. We have one announcement that I'm aware of, and it's for the, if you want to read that, please, Mrs. Winslow.
The Foundation for Wareham Education will be having a wine tasting. It's $30 a ticket. The event will be held at Ella's on March 7th. Thank you, Mrs. Winslow.
I believe there was another announcement, too, for the MS Society. It's having a fundraiser at COSI's. I'll get more details on that to you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who'd like to speak before the board this evening in citizens' participation? Mr. Savageau, please.
Good evening, Board, Madam Chair, Mr. Town Administrator. I understand there was a little glitch in the scheduling, so microphone needs to be on.
If you have to push the button to turn the microphone on, please. Thank you.
The green light's on. I think we're good to go.
Great.
I understand there was a little glitch with the scheduling, so if I may, I'd like to come before you under citizens' participation. So I'm here, Bruce Savageau for the record, I'm here on behalf of the Westfield Study Review and Recommendation Committee, and I'd like to make our first report to the board very briefly. We met on February the 24th at 7 p.m. We convened our first meeting at Town Hall in the basement cafeteria, and all 7 members of the committee were present, as well as 3 members of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Holmes, Mrs. Ekstrom, and Madam Chair, as well as the Town Administrator, Mr. Andrews. And on behalf of the committee, we would like to thank the Selectmen for attending and getting us started with some clear direction and guidance as far as our role as an advisory committee, and a rough time frame to complete our task as you assigned it to us. As you know, Mr. Holmes gave us a written outline to start with and asked the town administrator to provide copies of the RFP to the committee as soon as it was practical. Mr. Andrews has directed Biz to provide those materials, and we now have online the August 9th version of the RFP together with all the supporting exhibits, excuse me, as well as the 5 responses by developers. After the Board of Selectmen convened us, we then elected our chair, which is Mr. Bill Haney, on the basis of his experience as chairman of the Finance Committee. And he is familiar with the open meeting law and Wareham's parliamentary customs generally. We elected Michelle Rose as clerk to the committee. There were good questions, input by the committee. I believe the committee is eager to get started with their task before us. The first task, which was assigned by the chair, was to read the RFP in its entirety and forward comments from each member with their first impressions and areas of discussion that we will then be coming before you each and every week to discuss. Our next meeting is March the 3rd at 6:30 in room 203 of the Multi-Service Center, and we'll convene there every week at that time until our task is completed. The public is obviously welcome to attend, and I'm happy to answer any questions. As I said, it was a very brief report tonight. We basically just got ourselves started. You got us started, and I believe we're off and running now.
Thank you, Mr. Savageau. Does anybody have any questions?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Holmes.
Madam Chair, through you. Mr. Savageau, as I understand it, I saw the box on Thursday. Have you seen the box in the office yet? Sanders has put together a library of the written RFP and all of the copies of the responses to the original RFP. And all the pictures and everything's in the office, Bruce.
Right.
And where I was going with this was, I was hoping that maybe on Fridays, because you're going to meet every Thursday at this point, right? So I was hoping that maybe on Fridays you or the scribe or someone could take the pages, because we talked about highlighting your discussion on Thursday on that master copy. Then I was hoping maybe somebody could bring that by on Friday and have the office make copies for the board's packets on Friday night.
Well, I think it's an excellent idea, basically because it gives us the sense, obviously, that the Board of Selectmen is engaged in this process on each step, and that's something that I think we're definitely going to need to have that input in precise direction, because we all come to this with different experience and different levels of knowledge about this RFP particularly, and there's going to be a learning curve, and that's always an opportunity to sort of get off track. So I raised that with the chair. I asked him to let us discuss that at the next meeting. His input was sound idea, good advice as a mechanism, as a working document that we could share. But he wanted the committee, I believe, to work off of a Word document, and that we could work together, obviously, in open session under the open meeting law, but a document that we could all reference. But I will raise that and see how we can accommodate that on a weekly basis so that we can interact, and I can take back your input and your direction.
Yeah, because my point was that on Tuesdays we could discuss what you went through on Thursday, so that when we get towards the 26th and we have our workshop, that we're all in lockstep pretty much, and every Tuesday how we felt about what happened on Thursday for the most part. And if there was something that the board was entirely against, then why keep going on down that road until the 26th, and then bring it up, and so that way we could just kind of keep it efficient,
Well, personally, I like the idea, because not only does it sort of keep us on track as far as the material is concerned, but it certainly keeps us on schedule. I know that's something that the board emphasized when they convened us, as far as what the board was looking for, as far as us accomplishing that task within a reasonable time frame.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Savage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there someone else who'd wish to address the board this evening? Yes, please. Come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Good evening, everybody. Madam Chair, and to you, Selectmen, I have a couple of quickie announcements. We have posters all over town about an upcoming dance that we had planned for St. Patrick's Day event for the 11th of this month. That's next Friday. It was a dinner combination with dance at the Elks Club to raise money for the seniors so we can have more food cards, etc. Unfortunately, the cutoff date for the dinner was this week, and I haven't got enough for the dinner part. We are going to continue the dance. So if you guys have some dancing shoes and like to have a nice relaxed evening on next Friday on the 11th, we've got a great new little trio. And I just wanted to reiterate, there won't be any food there. There will be snacks. The bar will be open. It'll be a fun night. And it's for $10 for everybody, each person. So that's the major change that we've made on that. In the past 4 weeks, the Friends of Wareham's Elderly has gone up to Plymouth and brought down 600 pounds of food, additional food to the Council on Aging pantry. We plan to increase that so that everybody in town who has that need can come to this building and get pretty much a balanced diet of what they need. So that's something that we just started 4 weeks ago, and I'm looking for 2 more volunteer drivers. It's on a Monday morning and a Wednesday morning between the hours of 8 to 11, and it's just going up, picking up the assortment we're requesting, bringing it back, putting it in the mug and muffin room, and leaving. And we do need 2 more drivers. It's only on a Monday and a Wednesday. If we have enough drivers, that means probably they'll only be doing it once a month. So that's a need we seriously need. The other thing is, you all got an email from me being invited to our Friends of Wareham's elderly party here. I didn't send you the copy of this, but I sent you a little note. I think I said what I did. I hope you all plan to attend. It's going to be a fun thing, and I think it would be a nice event that you could all attend and meet the citizens of Wareham who are seniors. And that's all I have to say, and thank you for the time.
Very welcome, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board under citizens' participation this evening? Seeing no one, we'll move along. Mrs. Winslow, we have approval of some executive session meetings.
Yes, Madam Chair. Strangely enough, we have the July 1, 2010, which we're going to need to postpone because Selectman Holmes was absent and I had to leave early that night. We also have the minutes of July 13th, 2010, which... Do you have those in your packet? Oh. Oh, all right, they're stapled. And I would make a motion to approve and hold the executive session minutes of July 13th.
Second. To approve and hold.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's 4-0-0. Thank you.
We also have the executive session minutes of the July 28th, 2010 meeting, and I would make a motion to approve and hold the executive session minutes of July 28th, 2010.
Also second to approve and hold.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's unanimous.
Madam Chair, we do have a list of minutes that had been previously approved. I believe that Selectman Cruz had met with Mr. Andrews and Town Council. I don't know how the other selectmen feel, but if we can do this next week when he's in attendance. I tried to pull out as many of those as I could find, but I was obviously missing a great number of them, so many of those I wasn't even here for. Mr. Holmes wouldn't have been either, but...
Well, if I may, Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Andrews. Mr. Andrews, were these a list of minutes that have already been approved, but they are on hold?
Yes.
That's correct.
So I would suggest that perhaps Ms. Winslow, if you weren't here for them, you would have abstained from them, but you can certainly vote to release them. Because we've already voted to approve the minutes.
Right. No, I understand that part. I didn't know what most of... So maybe you can give us an idea of...
Madam Chair, through you, we went through a labyrinth of minutes, executive minutes, and went through them very carefully with staff as well as with council. And I believe that our clerk, Selectman Cruz, indicated that these were set for approval, Madam Chair.
Set for release.
That's correct, I'm sorry.
And Mr. Cruz did discuss these with me, and I think that they have been carefully reviewed, and that they are no longer holding them is no longer necessary. So I'd like to entertain a motion to release these minutes.
Oh, I know. I just wanted to get an idea of how everybody felt about it. I make a motion to release. Do you want me to read all the dates, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
To release the following minutes that have previously been approved and held. June 20th, 2007, July 17th, 2007, October 7th, 2008, October 19th, 2007, April 14th, 2009, June 9th, 2009, June 26th, 2009, August 4th, 2009, August 6th, 2009, September 8th, 2009, September 10th, 2009, November 3rd, 2009, December 22nd, 2009, February 16th, 2010, April 13th, 2010, May 11th, 2010, June 8th, 2010, July 1, 2010.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's 400. Thank you. The next thing on the agenda this evening is a permission for the Gleason YMCA road race, 9th annual 5K road race through the village of Onset. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion. This is to approve the application for a permit for the Gleason Family YMCA for the use of town roads for their 9th annual 5K road race through the village of Onset on Saturday, May 14th, 2011 from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's unanimous. Thank you. Is there anyone here from the YMCA? No, I didn't think so. Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Mr. Andrews, leadership report.
Madam
please.
Chair, if I could ask Director Burke to come forward. This is an item that the board had asked to be reviewed some time ago, and I've asked Miles Burke to come forward and the report on the Class 2 auto dealership licenses. His recommendation and report is enclosed, and I'd like Director Burke to give you an update. Through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Town Administrator. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Good evening.
We did complete all inspections of the Class 2 auto dealers licenses. Those are the used car lots. I did attach a listing of those lots for the board's review. And many of these businesses still wanted to renew their license, but many were doing a very limited number of auto sales, if any. The sale of autos seems to be ancillary to a couple of businesses in town, but they wanted to hang on to their license. Also, with the advent of the internet, I pointed out it's necessary to have one of these licenses to attend auto auctions, and many dealers buy and sell used cars at the auctions, but they do so over the internet, so they don't require the same traditional auto lots and conduct business in the traditional sense of going to a used car lot and kicking the tires and taking it for a test drive, etc. They do business over the internet, so several of them had no cars at all on their lot. So we did check for the licenses being on the premises and the number of cars that they were allowed to have, but every single one had under the amount allotted to them. So for these and other reasons, I was asked if they thought we should increase the amount of licenses. Several people come to our front counter in the clerk's office inquiring about how would they go about getting an auto license and to be a Class 2 dealer. So I thought in my discussions with the town administrator it would stimulate some jobs, as did the jobs bill that was passed earlier this year. And I would suspect that many of the safeguards that we have in place with the Wareham zoning bylaws, as well as with the site plan review procedure, if they were going to have more than 10 parking spaces, they would have to go through the necessary site plan review and get an engineered drawing of how they were going to position those cars on the lot. They certainly need to do this
in commercial zones that's pointed out in the zoning bylaws, and this would be a way to generate more revenue for the town, and also to hopefully create some jobs and some revenue for the people that are involved in this trade. So there were several that didn't seem to be engaged in selling used cars, but they did want to hang on to their license, and I didn't know how the board wishes the Inspectional Services Department to proceed in this regard, but I would recommend, if people are inquiring about acquiring a license, that they be allowed to go through the process, at least in review.
Does anyone on the board wish to ask Mr. Burke a question?
He can go
Mrs.
first.
Winslow?
No, it's all right.
Ladies first.
Thank you. My thought on this was that we do have a number of vacant former car lots, and if we were to approve 3 additional licenses and people have licenses that they're not really using, in theory those people could someday turn those licenses back in, correct?
Sure.
They could. So would it make sense, from what you saw out there, to attach the approval of those additional licenses to those vacant lots if people wanted to? Because right now we have, at least one very large deteriorating lot on Cranberry Highway, and I really wouldn't mind, honestly, putting a license there, because I think that would definitely be a benefit to that area. But I guess what I'm concerned about, and I tried to look through the zoning and stuff, but I got a little confused as to, what you were referring to. If we just hand out 3 additional licenses and somebody were to buy one of those lots, there would be no additional license available. So what would you recommend we do in terms of the additional licenses if they're not going to, and about the people who aren't using their licenses? What was your feeling out there in the...
Yeah, I mean, I understand the question as far as where we would like to see the lots, and that if they went in front of the zoning board and say they purchased that property, I believe it's for sale, it has a big for sale sign on it, and I passed it today. It seems like it would be an ideal spot with the traffic count that you have on Cranberry Highway, and the fact that it was already set up as a auto sales lot. So I'm sure the zoning board who has to grant a special permit as to zoning in commercial strip, would pass that. They would say, yes, you can, for use sake, have a used car lot there. Then they would need to pass site plan review with the planning board, which I'm sure that they could pass that. But absent the license, they couldn't, operate. So then it would be up to the board to grant that license for that location. But to say, well, we'll give you this license if you purchase that property and open on that strip, I don't think we can mandate that from the town's perspective. But generally, that's where you would hopefully see people that want to have the display of a lot of cars. Like I said, it seems like a lot of people are using these licenses to attend auctions and go to the auction and maybe wholesale some cars as well. So it would be nice if they stuck to some of these vacated lots, but I don't know if, as you could mandate it. But I don't see a real saturation. I believe we have 15 total.
Right now.
It doesn't seem to be a huge saturation of used car lots that are filled with cars out there. So
Thank you,
I would
Mr.
like
Burke.
to see them. Yeah.
Mr. Holmes?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Burke. Miles, first, thank you for the details and the explanation on this. I think one of the other issues with a couple of these was where they transfer title from the original to the person. And in order to do that using a business name, I mean, Steve Holmes could transfer a title to Miles Burke.
Correct.
but Steve's Auto Sales cannot transfer a title to Miles Burke unless I have a license.
Correct.
So a lot of people don't necessarily have a front yard with balloons and all that. I mean, they are doing things. There's a guy who had come in who was looking for a license to do that as well, and he was just passing the cars. But you got to have a license to do the title work. So, and I don't think that I'm sure it's probably illegal somewhere in the law to mandate that somebody purchase a property they're not interested in purchasing in order to get a license. I don't think you can do that. And to say to the mechanic shop who wants to start selling cars and increase his staff of mechanics and et cetera, to say that you can't do it here, you have to go buy another building somewhere else, I just don't think that makes sense. And I don't think you can do that.
I think it was done.
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
It'd be nice, and we're out searching for people to fill those stores.
One at a
But
time.
I don't think you can force them to buy a piece of property just to have a license.
Can I just clarify what my concern was? I don't have a problem necessarily with increasing the number of licenses. My concern, Mr. Holmes, is that we increase the number of licenses. There are people out there that want them. We immediately give them out, and then those properties that are sitting there rotting really don't hold the same value to a potential buyer. And that's why I asked the question, because if there's no more licenses available, then we're back in the same spot, having to increase the... So I guess that's where my concern lied, was I want to make sure that we do the responsible thing, but I also don't want to do something that has an unintended negative consequence down the road.
I think that was more of a practice with liquor licenses in the past, where people would buy a particular restaurant that had a liquor license, and then if they wanted to transfer that license to another location, they would have to come before the board and transfer it. But that was a way to acquire a license, was to purchase a...
Right, and in these cases, like Auto Spirit or Spirit Auto near Benny's, when he came in, the previous board, they pulled that license, and that license is gone to somebody else. So we didn't have that in place where they would pull the license and keep it in case somebody buys the building. So
Right.
that license is gone.
Right.
So if somebody even wanted to do that today, they couldn't do it because we don't have any extra licenses.
Well, and if I may, Madam Chair, I think that's what Selectman Winslow's concern was, is that, for example, that building, and you're correct, we can't do it, but say Benny's was vacant, and it wasn't an auto dealership.
Right.
If I'm correct, Mrs. Winslow, that she doesn't want someone going into Benny's and creating it into a used car lot where there's a used car lot aside of it. But I would believe that would fall, that would probably be illegal and like a quid pro quo, that we can't say, if you do this, then we'll do that. So I think you're correct, that is, would be illegal. My concern is that, as Mr. Burke, as you and Mr. Holmes were talking about, that many of these people are smaller distributors, or that are, buying it and selling it. And I'm concerned, is this happening, as you said, that internet is, an increase or whatever. Is this happening in residential areas that these people are having licenses, or do they actually have a location somewhere and that they just expand their sales through internet or things like that?
Right. Usually it's expanded. They need to put an address to the license when they look for a used car license, and it's supposed to be an approved business address. There was one in particular on Depot Street that looks like it's in a residential area, and there were no cars on the premises at all. But I understand he does work through a dealership and wholesales, and works with the dealership to move some of the cars from the dealership to other lots that are legitimate, whether it's in Wareham or another town. But you do see occasional cars for sale on people's front lawn, and as Mr. Holmes said, that is legal to sell your car on to somebody if you have clear title to it. But I believe it's after 2 or 3 a year, you're supposed to have a license to be a licensed dealer. You fall under the registry's
'Cause,
guidelines.
yeah, 'cause, I mean, that would be my only concern, is that you have someone that is selling, selling them in a neighborhood, they've got 2 or 3 cars on there, because they've been able to get a permit, so, I think that it would be up to this board going forward that, and it would not be illegal for them to have a quid pro quo type of agreement that I will lease this as long as I get a permit from the town and site plan review approved and zoning board. That happens quite frequently in a private thing. A town couldn't do that, so I would have no objection to that as long as this board just keeps in mind that these aren't to be, necessarily at private houses and things like that. I just, one of the things that Mr. Holmes made excellent comments about the first time we discussed this was the increase in business that, the ancillary business that comes from this. And, I'd like to see that type of thing. I don't really want to see it in, just someone on their computer and, meeting people after hours or whatever in their side yard. So, but that would be something for this, for this board.
And some of those, Madam Chair, through you to Mrs. Ekstrom, and some of those home businesses, be interested in, did you check to see if they had a business certificate while you were there? I'm not
For
putting
the
you on
home
spot.
business?
But if you go down for a business certificate, the first thing they ask you is, do you have home deliveries? Because if you do, then obviously it changes the score. But if a guy's doing wholesale and he's moving cars to dealerships and other places, he doesn't have any supplies coming and no delivery trucks coming, right? So he can get a business certificate to have that in his house. But that's usually the first question they ask you, right?
It's operated as a home office,
Right.
correct?
Yeah. So, and the second thing, Madam Chair, is I did go through the bylaw and updated Section 13, which were some of the concerns that the board had when we first discussed this. 13E under the bylaw, the applicant has set forth, the Board of Selectmen may issue a Class 2 license if it finds, E, the applicant has set forth the operation of business hours included in the application. The Class 2 license may be revoked if the applicant does not comply with the hours of operation that were submitted with the application. So if I come in with an application from this point going forward, I have to have on that application, just like we do with liquor stores, my operational hours are going to be from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, et cetera, et cetera. And then if you find that someone has that type of license in your regular inspections that we added to this as well, and you get there on Monday at 1 o'clock and the place is closed, well, maybe the guy gets sick, you come back Tuesday, he's closed, you have the option of coming back to the board and saying we need to revoke this license. So it's not just that we're giving out licenses to people. There's some teeth to that. If they don't follow the operational hours they stated in the application. And 13F says that the Board of Selectmen may issue a Class 2 license if it finds that the application has $50,000 in liability insurance. The state requires, I believe it was $25,000. And we have a right as a town to go above and beyond that. And we added, the board felt 2 months ago that that should have a doubled value at $50,000. So you don't see any problem with those two additions to the bylaws, and you can enforce that well enough.
Well, normally
you do your
the
inspections.
insurance rider would be
part of the application
part of the
process.
application and
Right.
part of the annual review with the application.
Right.
And operational hours, we could certainly check on ones that were obvious that weren't keeping significant amount of hours.
Good.
Madam
Thank you,
Chair,
Madam Chair.
through you to both Selectman Holmes and Mr. Burke, what would we do? I did get some feedback from some of the current Class 2 license holders, and one of their concerns about the operational hours was that in a lot of cases these are one-man shows. And they go to an auction, they have to take a car out to a mechanic. There's a lot of things that are involved, and that it can be difficult for them to keep posted hours, which I didn't realize when we had the original conversation, because I don't know the first thing about selling used cars. But with that said, with the folks who are wholesaling these cars with these licenses or using these licenses just to buy a car or two a year at an auction, how would we have posted hours for those business? Would they be grandfathered, or what would your suggestion be on that?
Madam Chair, through you to Mrs. Winslow. That's what it means.
That's the answer.
I can hear.
Fantastical.
I'm hearing something that's okay. On the question of the single proprietor, my brother ran a business by himself for many years before he passed, and when he had to go for a pot run or he had to do something, they took him away. He had to have hours with the city of New Bedford, and when he left, he had a sign that he had on his door that said, I'm out to lunch, or I had a pot run, I'll be back at, and there was a time on there. So it's the responsibility of the business owner to either make arrangements and have somebody come sit there and watch the place, or put a sign on the window that says, I'll be back at such and such a time.
Right. No,
And the second half of that story is the folks that already have the license, obviously they're grandfathered, but even the person who plans on wholesaling has to have some kind of operational hours that they can be reached. So on the application, listen, we don't want to have virtual businesses in the car business. So there's got to be some kind of hours and a phone number and a contact information where if Mr. Burke or anybody from the town needs to contact that person, they run a business in this town, they have a business certificate, and they have a license, they need to be accountable for that. And if they don't want to be accountable, then they don't need to apply for the license. Listen, one of the issues was to keep, we don't want to hinder somebody's business, but we want to make this strict enough so that they understand that, this isn't, it's a used car business, and they're going to get a license from the town of Wareham, they're going to run it like professionals. That's what we asked for.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I just wanted some clarification. And my final thought on this, Mr. Burke and Selectman Holmes, you are suggesting increasing the number of licenses to 20. That's 5 additional licenses. And
I'm willing to go with
That's
whatever
Mr.
the
Holmes.
board
Oh, is that
wants to.
Mr.?
That was
increase
Mr.
it
Holmes.
to.
He went a
Oh.
little further. I think in his original report,
I thought he
Mr.
said
Burke said
3.
6, but
I
I
thought
was
you just
only
said 3.
looking for 5 in
I think what
policy.
Mr. Holmes is proposing
Oh, this
the
is, okay,
policy
that's,
statement
I'm
be
mistaken
changed,
then.
I believe.
I didn't realize that. So
Never mind.
I guess that
Okay.
my next comment has nothing to do with you then. I'll save it for further discussion.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Mr. Holmes, did you want to,
Good, if Miles is done, I would like to make a motion. My first motion is that the Board of Selectmen approve the revised policy number 0402, that Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen maximum allowed Class 2 licenses. Is the policy of the Town of Wareham to limit the number of Class 2 licenses to 20, and the present Class 2 license holders are grandfathered, and if a Class 2 license is turned into the Selectman's office, it should be canceled. The policy shall take effect immediately, date adopted today. You want to do this in 2 motions or 1 motion? Madam Chair?
I think that you should probably try for 2 motions,
Combine
Mr.
it,
Holmes.
or, okay. So that'd be the first motion is to revise the Board of Selectmen policy 0402.
Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
For discussion, Mrs. Winslow.
Increasing the number of licenses to 20. I'm a little bit concerned about, I'm not overly comfortable with adding 5 licenses, especially knowing that we can't insist that they go to some of those vacant properties. And the reason for that is that I do think that we probably do need to increase what's available, because there are people out there who, you know, are willing to, you know, go into business. But at some point or another, those properties are going to be sold. And if these 5 licenses get taken up immediately, then a board in the future is going to be forced with, you know, upping it again, maybe next time to 25, because nobody's going to buy some of these properties. Especially the one I worry about the most is Auto Spirit, because that's, you know, set up like that. There's not a lot of room there to do much of anything. So I'm wondering if Mr. Holmes would be willing to come down a little on the additional licenses, and I would even be comfortable with reviewing the number of licenses on an annual basis, based on, you know, what's going on in the community.
Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Holmes wants to.
Is that a question?
Yeah.
Oh, then through you, Madam Chair, I wouldn't be comfortable. I think we've already, I've had discussions with 3 business owners already, not including what Mr. Burke has dealt with at the window. I think even if we increase it to 5, I think they're going to go pretty quickly. Any board, if there's an issue with Auto Spirit, or, you know, we've spent a lot of time talking about,
Cranberry Highway.
oh, I can't remember the name of who was it Robinson's?
Mm-hmm.
In that other
Cranberry
parcel that we're trying to get
The
a
old
combo
Cranberry-
together to reopen that.
Yeah, the old Cranberry
I think
Chevrolet.
in those situations, a future board will deal with it, just like we're trying to deal with several people who want to start a business here in Wareham and sell some cars and put their mechanics to work and increase the parts business and increase his inspection business. This is the kind of economic development. Everything can't be a makepiece in town. And this is the thing that starts to spur things. People start a business. And look, if you know, if a year from now or 2 years from now, somebody wants to buy that parcel and they want to buy Auto Spirit and there's no licenses, then that board will take a look at it. But I'm not in favor of limiting the number of licenses in case, or limiting it to 3, and those 3 are gone, as far as I know. They will be gone. And then you got a couple of people who can't start a business. So I'm not sure what the number has to do with Auto Spirit. But I would like to leave the motion at 5.
Well,
for
if I
now.
may, Madam
Mrs.
Chair.
Ekstrom?
Thank you. I also think that as selectmen, we have the right, and not only the right, but the obligation to deny or vote against something if we don't believe that it is in the best interest of the community. So if there is someone that is going to do it, as we were talking about, one of our concerns, you know, I mean, we do have the right to vote against that one, whether it would, you know, whether the other selectmen would vote against it as well. But, you know, I wasn't real sold on the idea of going up to 20, but I think that especially in these economic times, I think that it would be the right thing to do to at least give people the opportunity. There are people out there that, you know, maybe their dealership went under, you know, maybe they were working someplace and now they have the opportunity to maybe go out on their own to try something. So I think that if it's the possibility of giving someone an opportunity, and you know what, if these go and they're not being handled the way we want them handled, whether it's this board or a future board, they can always pull them back. They can get more aggressive as far as checking on those hours and really holding them to the, you know, the feet to the fire of these companies. And, you know, hopefully they will have the mettle to, you know, pull them if need be going forward, and then that would open up. Or if everything's going great, you know, as Mr. Holmes said, they could increase it by 1 or 2 or whatever, you know, but I just think in these economic times, I think we've got to try to give people an opportunity. But I will be very critical if anyone comes in front of us. I will be very critical that, as Mr. Holmes said, it is a business. It's not, you know, someone who's playing, you know, Dungeons and Dragons on one computer and selling cars on the other, and they're never around and all of that stuff. So I would like it to be a business. So I hesitantly, but hopefully that it will be positive for the community. So I don't have a problem with it staying at 20.
I would just concur with the idea that the 5 licenses could go, and that a sixth person could come along and decide to buy Spirit Auto, and then the board would have to face a decision of increasing the licenses. So just because there isn't a license available doesn't mean that the board couldn't make an exception to the policy. So there's a motion and a second on the floor to increase the number of Class 2 licenses to 20. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstained? It's 3, 1, 0. Mr. Holmes, you have another motion?
Madam Chair, would also make a motion to revise the bylaw on Class 2 rules and regulations for the town of Wareham, effective March 1st, year 2011. Section 9, the number of Class 2 licenses outstanding in the town of Wareham will be limited to 20 said licenses under Section 13, and I'll submit this completed report for the record in case I'm missing something. But under Section 13E, if the applicant has set forth the operational business hours included in the application, and the Class 2 license may be revoked if the applicant does not comply with the hours of operation submitted with the application, and 13F, that the applicant has $50,000 in liability insurance at the time of application. Oh, I would edit that to say the time, but at time of application.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's 401. 400, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Burke.
I'm sorry, you know, before we allow Mr. Burke to leave, seeing we're in the town administrator's report, there was an issue that we had in our packets regarding, my understanding is that Mr. Burke is asking us to assist in the enforcement of the town of Wareham zoning bylaws under Article 14 concerning an issue that he has had. Is that correct? Is that...
Madam Chair, yes, while we have Director Burke here.
But I don't know if we have to really state any of the information. I've read it, and if my understanding would be that as far as the fines, I'm sorry?
Sorry, we're
Oh.
having a little technical difficulty
Oh,
here.
okay, I'm sorry. I was saying now, as far as the fines, would you find that, because I know that it's that he can be, or the situation, they can be fined for not more than $300 for each violation. And I would say now, I'm not quite sure. Do you have the authority to do the violation, or is it?
Madam Chair, if I
Or
could,
would it be? Thank you.
maybe while we have Director Burke here, he can explain this is part of our real new effort to get the neighborhoods in the shape they should be in.
Mm-hmm.
And after numerous complaints
Okay,
and
Board of Health.
attempts to reasonably deal with this situation, I asked the Director to put this on. Maybe if you could, Madam Chair, through you, Mr. Burke, give us a very brief outline.
Yeah, just a brief synopsis. Thank you, Madam Chair. Underneath the Wareham zoning bylaws, we do notice and let anybody know if they're in violation of different articles. And on this particular case, I had received several complaints that not only were the commercial vehicles in violation, but there was serious concern as to the potential for environmental
Mhm.
dangers with the fact that it was in a Zone 2 protected aquifer. So I conferred with the Water Department. I also conferred with Bob Ethier of the Department of Health, and they were very concerned. We also contacted DEP, which could take some serious corrective action, but they want to see the town initiate some corrective action on their own. So underneath the Wareham zoning bylaws, that corrective action does take the form under Article 14, 14, let me see, 1432, that the violation order is sent, and if it's not complied with promptly, as outlined in my memo to the board, there's been about a half a dozen complaints that we've noticed
Mhm.
over approximately 1 month now. So we feel that the violator has been given an opportunity to remove those vehicles. It hasn't happened to date, to my knowledge. I notice he is here, and to his credit, he did respond to the notice. So when we go out and we cite somebody for a violation, we are looking for voluntary compliance. We're not out to try to fine citizens of Wareham or to, create any undue financial hardships for anybody. But at a certain point, we need to have the teeth that to do the job and to make sure that the person who is in violation knows that we're serious. So under 1432, the Board of Selectmen is able to assess up to a $300 fine for each violation, and each day can be considered a separate violation.
Mhm.
So it doesn't have to be 300. It can't be more than 300, because anything over that is deemed for only a criminal offense. But the DEP, if they come in, they certainly would be assessing more than a $300 fine, from my experience, for any kind of illegal dumping or any kind of potentially environmental problems that they feel the person was negligent in taking corrective action. So all we're looking for is voluntary compliance, or in absent of that, the board to give us the authority to start the clock ticking on some type of monetary fine per day that we're still in violation. So,
Mr. Burke, if I could ask you
Yep.
2 questions. There's quite a list of violations here. The first notice of violation went out quite some time ago. What is your recommendation to this board as to what we should initiate the fine for violation?
well, my recommendation would be to initially set a date, like 48 hours from today, that it's not something that we find generally in the building department. Is sometimes things have to be taken down, removed, made safe. This is a situation where vehicles need to be driven off site and kept off site in a commercial zone that is appropriate for that use. So I understand that it would have taken somebody for that many large vehicles a little time to locate a suitable place that they could lease, or someone that was willing to allow them to store those vehicles in a commercial zone. So we felt we gave them appropriate time. But both Mr. Ethy and I concurred that we can't be going out 5 and 6 times just to check to see if vehicles have been removed or that people are in compliance. So like I said, to the credit of the violation, he did come in and discuss it with me, and he also went and discussed it with Mr. Ethier, and I thought we were clear on our objectives, and I would recommend that the board allow us to, at a certain point, start enforcing the $300 monetary fine per day if it's not removed in the next 48 hours. That would be my recommendation.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Burke, I can understand that, Mr. Burke, on the vehicles. But on 222, you're, you're talking about an apartment being constructed. Is that apartment is it constructed?
We received an additional complaint regarding the same property, that there was an illegal apartment that was constructed in the basement of this residence. That also was a violation of zoning. We have been unable to gain access to verify that. So from the vehicle standpoint, there also was, well, I think in fairness, it was discussed of whether or not it was a temporary structure, but that structure still needed to be permitted. Neither one of these construction issues were permitted or inspected by the department. So at this point, they're not in compliance with either one. I can pretty much say that the basement apartment would not be allowed to be permitted or constructed because the complainant said they entered and exited through a bulkhead. So we're certainly not going to allow apartments existing in basements in a single-family residential neighborhood where they can't exit through proper egress. So that was just an issue that came up just at the end of last month when I was forwarding this to the board the following day. So,
Mrs. Winslow.
Madam Chair, I have a couple questions. In regards to the apartment, do you believe that's a rental unit, or are we talking that we have a college age or, high school age person who's moved their residence to the basement? Because that does often happen. So I'm just curious as to whether this is, because when I think of an apartment, I think of something that you rent and pay for, or are separate from the other living quarters in the house.
correct. It was my understanding that there was no relation between the owners and the prospective tenants,
Okay.
that they were building it out, full kitchen, bathroom, living room, and were following up with a court case with that they were taking the matter to court as well. So that hasn't played out yet. I just wanted, at least for the purposes of tonight's meeting, to get some clarity on. We did contact the DEP to see if they were willing to come in and assist, and they said they would like to see the town take some corrective action first, and if not complied with it, they would be happy to follow through.
Can I just ask my last question?
please.
I don't have any problem taking corrective action, but in the letter that was sent, it did say that we would give the individual the opportunity, and I'm wondering, are we going to do that after we finish asking Mr. Burke questions? Because I do want to hear the other side of what's going on over there, but
Sure.
I'm not going to hesitate. I think 48 hours is generous. This has gone on for a long time, but okay.
Mrs. Ekstrom.
And I know we're not talking about the apartment. I just wanted to, for clarification though, even if I have a basement and I renovate it into a kid's room or something, that is technically still illegal because that's not livable space, right?
Well, right.
Without
I mean,
coming through
if
and
it's
getting
not habitable space through the building department, we would certainly assist if it was able to be constructed properly.
to be
That
modified, right.
especially that they had the proper means of egress. One means would be, out. Some people have, a walkout basement or sliders out the back side of a basement, with the second egress being through the living quarters of the family, of the parents. And that door is kept unlocked. We don't allow them to put locks on that because that is obviously a passageway to the second egress, which is out of the first floor of the house. So it's not that you couldn't have some living space in the basement, but this, from the complaint, it was just one more thing that we're trying to verify. So
And that's right, but I just wanted to make it clear, not counting this one, but even if you think, like, if, just for the people out, the viewing audience, if you have a basement, it's not considered habitable space. It would still have to comply with zoning regulations. So if there's
Correct.
anyone out there that's thinking about doing something in their basement, they
Right.
need to come see our office first.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then, I don't know if you want to,
As Mrs. Winslow indicated, there is a notification in the letter to the violators to present any information or testimony in their defense as why these violations have been allowed to continue. Is there someone here who wishes to address this? Please come forward and identify yourself for the record. Thank you.
How you doing? I'm Joe Sergi.
Good evening.
good
How we
evening.
doing? Basically, we'll start with the commercial vehicles. This is the letter. I got a little wet, but I got for my violations. No contact information. Nothing. I went down and spoke to Mr. Burke. We went over it. He said, not a big deal. Don't worry about it. I said, I'm parking them on the side. It's fine. We have our own bylaws because we're a private community. In my bylaws, it says there's not a problem. One, this is the only letter other than the certified letter I got. I've left 2 messages, Mr. Burke's phone, never got a call back. So all these violations, no idea. I spoke to Mr. Bello 2 days ago, and he told me to tell you guys that he would like to be here, but because it's such last minute, that he would like to postpone it.
Madam Chair, through you, could you, Mr. Sergi, what is the date on the letter that you're referring?
This one's January 26th. And I did go down and speak with both.
There is a phone number on this, or with a extension. That's
Absolutely not. Can I show it to you?
Please.
share it with the other members of the board before you take the pen.
So you didn't receive a letter on February 22nd
Which I got the certified
or
letter the
February? You got that one? A letter on February 7th?
Let's see, there's one I got yesterday, Friday, and there was one that was left in the mailbox that wasn't mailed. That's dated February 11th.
Right, there were 3 notices delivered, 2 of them in hand, one of them by mail, one of them by certified mail by the board. Madam Chair, through you, if I may, he did come in, so obviously he did receive the letter. We did have the conversation, but it certainly didn't say no big deal, forget about it. We had made contact with the Board of Health and the Water Department. Clearly discussed that he was in an aquifer, which he definitely knew. He was doing salting and sanding work for the town, so he knows that street is unable to be salted or sanded for that very basic. He also talked to us about the fact that he felt his street, even though they had some covenants that is common with development of a cul-de-sac, so that people can have certain amount of amenities or not have certain things stored in their yards usually, that they were outside the jurisdiction of the Wareham zoning bylaws. I certainly explained to him that he's within our jurisdiction. He's not outside of the Wareham zoning bylaws or any other laws that govern ownership of property and protection of the aquifer in a Zone 2 area. So no big deal, forget about it, was never part of my vocabulary that day. I also said that he needed to talk to Mr. Ethier, which he walked down the hall and had a conversation with him about the Board of Health concerns. So we were looking for voluntary compliance. As I said, we weren't looking to drag him into court or in front of this board for fining, but by his current admission that he received other notices in the mailbox, that was because I was delivering them in hand, which under the state codes is part of the way that we're supposed to deliver, either certified or by in-hand service, that we went out to the property to verify the fact that the trucks were still there. So I was making sure that he was getting the mail in his box. He came in, which told me that he was getting the messages. If I didn't get his phone message, I guess I didn't get his phone message, but he certainly knows where the office is, and I would have been willing to talk to him. I don't know if he wants to respond to whether or not he's built out an apartment in the basement or that he's built an illegal shed without permits on the property at this time. My main concern was to protect the aquifer, and that was the main concern of the other residents that called. I told him that he responded that he felt there's just one neighbor that doesn't like me, but I assured him that I had over 3 or 4 different people complaining about this very issue. So I was I thought I was pretty clear, and I might have been cordial, but I think I was pretty clear that it wasn't something that we were just going to say forget about it because he lived on a cul-de-sac that had a certain amount of bylaws or rules that they were trying to go by, but I assured him that the towns were still in full force and effect.
Madam Chair, if I could, just for a question.
Mr. Andrews.
Mr. Burke, just describe so that the listening audience and everybody here in the room understands. We're at, this is like 100 yards of work you've done to try to get voluntary compliance from this individual who understands that this is a very sensitive area, sensitive environmental area. We've had numerous complaints in working with the police department. They have received numerous complaints. We've just explained so that we understand that there's been a number of efforts to try to get voluntary compliance. And what does that mean, voluntary compliance?
Well, I've received at least 4 emails from Chief Stanley on this very subject, and he's been working with us to make sure that Mr. Sergi was informed that he needs to move the trucks. And voluntary compliance would simply be that he found a suitable location. We talked about just finding a commercial area to store the trucks. I told him when, I guess, the first incident, he claimed that they were only there because a couple of them belonged to his brother or his cousin, and that's fine, that they're under separate registrations or ownership, and they were plowing for the town of Wareham, and that they just stopped there after plowing all night, slept for a few hours, had something to eat, and then they were off and running again. So that's why I thought it necessary to verify it at least 4 or 5 times that they are in fact being stored there. Sometimes they're stored off the driveway into the woods a little bit. I'm not sure where the property lines are. I assume that's his property. But in these heavy rains, the health agent and I were just out there last week, and we noticed a large degree of salt on the ground washing off the trucks. So before it gets to be an issue, I asked for voluntary compliance, that they find a suitable location. I said, I'm fine with your pickup truck, you know, even if it has signage on the side. We're not here to give people a hard time that are earning a living in the construction trades or in the landscaping and plowing trades. We appreciate the work they do for us. But I said, you really need to find a suitable location outside of the Zone 2 aquifer where you can store the trucks, drive your cars to that lot, hop in the trucks, and go to work for the town of Wareham. I'm fine with that. And whether or not we had a cordial conversation or not, there was no way that I said, I'm fine with it.
Thank you, Mr. Burke.
Mr. Sergi, would you like to respond to that?
I've only spoke to Mr. Burke once about this whole situation. Other than that, there was no other conversations. I spoke to the Board of Health once. His concern was the salt. He asked me that he said he had complaints that there was a large quantity of salt on my property, which there is no salt other than normal salt on the vehicle from driving down the road. The other thing was washing the vehicles in the yard. Absolutely not. We bring them down to a place where we wash them. They don't get washed in the yard for that reason. He said, Okay, as long as you're not washing them and you don't have salt in your yard, we don't have a problem. Because my thing was, what's the difference if I go to Lowe's, I got a 250-foot driveway, and I throw 10 bags of 50-pound salt in my driveway? Still going to do the same thing.
Well,
Madam,
You know, I'm not. I just don't. All these complaints they're getting,
well,
they're complaints of, I don't. It's just not. Some of them are true. Some of them aren't true. A lot of them are false. That's why Mr. Bello would like to be here for this. So,
Madam Chair, may
Mrs. Exton.
thank you. Did Mr. Attorney Bello, did he contact our office?
I spoke to him yesterday because I got the letter on Friday, and he said it's too short notice to tell you guys that to get all the paperwork, the violations, and that to post another date, and he'll be here.
Well, I mean, Mr. Attorney Bello has been in front of us several times on different issues. I have the utmost respect for him. I'm just surprised it's very unlike him for him not to call our office to ask for this. I would like to address one comment that you just made. What's the difference between if you have it at Lowe's or if you have it at where you are? And I believe that through your conversations with Mr. Ethia and Mr. Burke that you do understand that you are in a Zone 2,
Yep.
which is above the aquifer. So this is the people's drinking water.
Right, I understand that.
So there is a difference if there are,
Right.
if there are issues. If you've got 6 trucks, whether there's salt coming off of them or salt, in them, whatever the issues are, but that is one of so there is a big difference if you're in Lowe's parking lot or if you're on your driveway.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the difference is that my trucks, after the storms, we pull in, we park them, guys get to sleep, whatever. Within the next day, they take them, they go wash them, they bring them back, they park them. They're cleaned up. Okay, there's no salt in them, there's no salt on the property, there's nothing. The only salt on the property is from salt being on the driveway from the ice or normal salt from cars. That's why I'm saying a lot of these violations or complaints aren't true complaints.
All right. So do you have a
Right.
business certificate to operate this company out of the house?
Yes.
And there was nothing. You didn't need a building permit or a sign off from the building inspector's office for that.
He wanted to use it as an office. We said no trucks, no signs,
That's normally what
mailing
it is.
address that he could.
And that's normally, I would say.
And it was for landscaping. There's 5 plower sanders. Plus
There's 2 big ones, 2 small ones. That's all. My brother's, after a storm, my brother comes there because the town bond's right there. He leaves within a day. I own 2 trucks, 2 big ones, 2 small ones.
Okay. And then just another thing that you had said, or that was brought up, I don't know if it was you or Mr. Burke, but when you had said that you live in a development that has certain things that you're allowed or not to allow, your development can't grant you anything
Right, I understand.
that's forbidden under the town. So just so you're aware of that.
Can I say something about the apartment? Anytime, come by, you can look at it. The basement was finished when they built the house. They framed off the outside walls, put a partition in the middle. There's, they call it a bonus room, bathroom with a sink, and then there's a bar, which, yes, I put in, which I didn't think I needed a permit for, with a couple cabinets on the wall. Everything else, all the construction, wiring, plumbing, was done before I moved in. But anytime, just let me know. You can come in and take a look.
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Winslow.
through you, the Board of Health agent, Mr. Sergi, wrote you a letter on February 11th, and he told you on February 11th to cease and desist the operation or any related operation which may affect the drinking water in this area. So I got the impression from you, and perhaps I misunderstood, that you thought that he was okay with what was going on at your property. but this letter indicates to me, and he did not write a follow-up letter that I'm aware of that said he had changed his mind about this.
Right. When I spoke to him in person, he said, "Do you have salt on your property? Am I storing salt there?" I said, "No, absolutely not. There's a big pile of sand, yes. There's no salt." He said, "The other complaint is you're washing your vehicles, the salt, out of the trucks in your yard." I said, "Absolutely not." And he says, "As long as you're not doing that, there's no problems." That was it. Conversation ended. They said they'd be in touch with me. On this letter, I got it written down at home, I'd say less than 10 days ago.
So you have a total of 4 commercial vehicles on your property.
Yep.
And those vehicles are used for what?
2 of them sand and plow for the town of Wareham. After that, they come off the road. My other 2, one of them I use for my personal use. It's a 1-ton dump truck that I use every day.
You drive a 1-ton dump truck just as a...
That's all I have.
The business certificate that you referred to, Mr. Burke, do we have a copy of that? A copy of the application, a copy of the certificate?
Probably not.
I don't think I have that. Wait a second.
Is that something that can be emailed out to us or gotten to us?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll have to get you a copy of the application and what was
Thank you.
signed on the card.
So, Mr. Sergi, if I'm to understand you correctly, you're requesting that we wait until your attorney can come before the board to address these violations or alleged violations. All of these letters. Mr. Bello has not contacted our office, Mr. Andrews?
You're correct, Madam Chair. He has not.
And you, Mr. Burke, are asking us to give him 48 hours to comply with the violations prior to instituting the fines.
Yes, after your decision, we feel that the trucks need to be moved ASAP. I have never been out there, according to my records, on January 25th. The complaint was lodged and inspection was made. There was at least 4 trucks. On 1/26, we sent the letter and we held a meeting. On 1/30, there were 6 vehicles, including the salt trucks that he mentioned. On 2/11, there were 5 trucks. On 2/21, there were 5 trucks, 2 trailers, and a pickup. So, like I said, we were looking for him to have voluntary compliance. I know they're probably registered to his brother or to his cousin, and they drive them, and they need a place to store them. But this is a sensitive aquifer. It's a Zone 2. It's an obvious violation. It is a violation of the bylaws as far as running that type of business. These are commercial vehicles with commercial plates. So, this was supposed to be a home office where he received, jobs and did billing and for purposes of the IRS and for purposes of not having to rent maybe an office that he wasn't going to be able to use. His business is outside. I understand that. We're certainly not trying to hurt him. That's why we allow for, some home office use in different areas so that they don't have to rent a place that they're not really going to be receiving customers. So I thought we were clear that we needed the trucks moved. I'm willing to wait and have discussion with the attorney if that's the will of the board, but I felt that he has been given sufficient time to find a suitable location to store the trucks, and I'm still concerned with still another month of weather ahead of us that, these trucks could be filled with salt and just driving around Sarah Beth Lane and that whole Zone 2 area.
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Winslow?
I agree that there's a sense of urgency here and that the situation has gone on for quite some time. I have 2 hesitations. tonight, and the first being that Mr. Sergi has advised us that he has counsel, and the second being that we don't have a copy of that business certificate application. If you put on an application, Mr. Sergi, that you weren't going to do what you're doing, then that's on you. That's your responsibility.
Right. Absolutely.
And so I don't necessarily have an answer, Madam Chair, but I do think that we need that piece of the puzzle. Because if the business certificate is accurate and was approved for these types of vehicles, then
There's not, I don't think it says anything on about vehicles on the business.
It was
certificate.
never
well,
approved.
if you're in that area, you would need to assure the building department that you were not going to have certain types of vehicles, because there are bylaws, and you're not allowed to have things like certain chemicals such as salt in the zone 2. So that would have been an issue that would have come up during your application process. I happen to live in a zone 2 area, and every time somebody in my area applies for a business certificate, they have to go through this exact same process. So I'm very familiar with it. It's one of the biggest, things that my neighbors talk to me about. So this is something that would have been addressed through that process. It's not something that just would have been left up in the air.
Right.
Especially if if you applied for a business certificate to landscape, that would have raised a red flag, because landscaping involves oftentimes chemicals and large commercial vehicles and things of that nature. So I would be hard pressed to believe that nobody noticed that when you put that application in a zone 2 area. I'm not suggesting anything, I'm just saying that would be stunning to me.
Right.
Madam Chair?
Mrs. Ekstrom.
Thank you. So the first time that you contacted Attorney Bello was yesterday?
Yes, because I got the certified letter Friday.
Okay, so when Mr. Ethia, the health agent, wrote to you on February 11th, ordering you to immediately cease the operations, that didn't say, gee, maybe I should contact someone. It was just, I'm just going to ignore it. I mean, I'm curious here because, or the letter of February 7th from the water superintendent that said, I'm sorry, that was to Mr. Ethia.
I did hand deliver that to him as well.
That also. So, I mean, I'm just curious is that, while I agree that, and I'm sure that when you spoke with Mr. Bello, I'm sure he said, gee, I want to be there. I mean, I don't think this is a hearing. I will tell you that it's a good thing conservation. I don't know if you spoke to Dave Bichette.
I did.
Because I was going to say they love handing out fines.
Surprisingly, they don't feel it's a conservation issue where he's not near a wetland.
It's not the wetlands. Okay, thank you.
Or within,
which would be making the Board of Health for the
so many
drinking.
feet. Correct.
Thank you. I mean, I would to have Attorney Bello could come in and now next week we won't have the full board, correct?
That's correct. The full board will not be present next week.
I mean, no, it's not.
I'm going to make a suggestion if I can.
Mm-hmm.
I think that pending the appearance of your attorney before this board, I should think that you should would be wanting to offer some sort of voluntary compliance for us in removing your vehicles from a residential zone and keeping them out of that zone.
I'm already in the process of a commercial property, but it won't be available till middle April. It's off of Depot Street in Cranberry Highway. The guy's clearing the lot.
See, I would say I was willing to go to the 15th, but then if they weren't moved by March 15th, I would be prepared to make a $300 violation for each truck as a separate violation for each day. Well, Because if it wasn't there, and if Attorney Bella doesn't come or whatever, I'm not saying I'm doing that now, I'm saying I would be prepared to do that.
Do you have any type of paperwork that shows that you're in the process of negotiating this lease?
I actually have a lease,
Do you
but
have a
not at the house.
Do you have a deposit that you've made on this commercial property?
No, because I'm taking all the material out for him, and we're working that part off, but I have a lease agreement.
So you do have something in writing that
Yeah,
shows
that's
that...
what I said. I don't have it here, though.
I mean, I just want you to understand,
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here looking to harm you financially,
Mm.
but I also feel that myself and my colleagues here have a very serious responsibility to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I have absolutely no problem finding you every single day from tomorrow till you get them off the property. But if you're going to show me that you're actively working to resolve this issue, then I may, feel a little less compelled to do so. But I do think that you've had since the end of January, when this was brought to your attention, to get this matter addressed.
And I agree, Selectman Winslow, and my only concern is that even with with a deed or a rental agreement or something that says the middle of April, I think that is too far off.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Holmes?
I'm a little confused, I guess. With all due respect, sir, what I'm hearing is it's okay to break the law and violate our zoning laws here in town, with fair warning from the Board of Health and the Inspectional Services Department, which is what we pay these people to do as our department heads in our departments. And they go out and tell an individual, we have an issue. That it's not resolved. We're sitting here in March, and believe it or not, we're discussing allowing this behavior to continue to violate the zoning laws. So the man has a lawyer, and that's fine. But I would say that, I have a problem saying 7 days. By next Tuesday night, your lawyer's here, because we're giving you 7 more days to violate our zoning laws. That's why we have them in place. So, I'm sorry, but, I would make a motion to follow the building inspector's recommendation, and that's in 48 hours. If you don't have this cleaned up and straightened out to the satisfaction of Mr. Burke and Mr. Ethier, and I'd be willing, what's today, Tuesday? I'd be willing to go till Saturday, just to give you some time to move the vehicles, or whatever you have to do.
96
But
hours.
if not, Mr. Burke and Mr. Ethier should be allowed to do their job and enforce our zoning laws in the town of Wareham.
Second
And
for
if your lawyer has
discussion.
a problem with that, then he can get a hold of Mr. Andrews as the town administrator and take it up with him tomorrow morning.
Mrs. Ekstrom, second for discussion. I'd like to further discuss. If we were to, I would like to see a fine set for the time after the 96 hours. Does not have to be $300 a day. $300 a day is the maximum, because again, we don't intend to in financial harm. But as I think the other board members have very correctly pointed out, this has been an issue since January 25th.
Okay.
Today's March 1st. If we were to fine you for every day since the initial complaint and the initial violation, that's a lot of money, and a lot of time, and a lot of violation of the zoning bylaws. So I would
If you want that
respectfully-
in the form of a motion, Madam Chair,
I
would
was
say
going to
that I would
suggest
say that
if I could suggest Mr. Holmes withdrawing the second and withdrawing the motion, and then adding to the motion
okay.
a dollar amount of a fine per day after the 96 hours.
I'll withdraw my second.
I'll withdraw my first.
Okay. Would you like to revise?
Yeah, I'll say that I'll make a motion that we give authority to Mr. Burke and Mr. Ethia to enforce this zoning violation, and that the occupant has 96 hours to rectify the situation, or Mr. Burke and Mr. Ethia have the authority. And I'll say that now, to me, it's kind of lame, $300 per vehicle. And I would make a motion that we fine $300 a day until it's rectified.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
I think it's just
Well-
important that people understand in the town of Wareham that we have an inspectional services department. He takes a lot of hits. And there were from the townspeople that the inspectional services department don't do their job. So they go out and they begin to do their job in the field work, and we as a board need to support that. When the health inspector goes out, and he takes a lot of hits about not doing his job, and he goes out and he finds these things, and they've both been doing a good job at this lately. We as a board need to support these two department heads. They have a very difficult job, and people have to understand that Miles Burke and Bob Ethia didn't go to finding this guy right away. This has been going on for a while. And I'm not saying that you didn't try to rectify. I'm just saying that we need to make a stand that we're going to enforce our zoning laws and our Board of Health laws, and that's it. I mean, that's what we're doing. And I think the board needs to support the town by supporting these two department heads, and I'm certainly going to do that.
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Winslow?
I agree that we need to enforce the law and that we need to support the efforts that the employees make on our behalf. However, there is allegedly a business certificate that's been issued to this residence for some type of business.
Landscaping.
And admittedly, there was an awareness that this may involve landscaping. And my concern is what was on that application and what was actually approved. And I really want to see that before, because we're also not sitting here to, cause harm. We all know that. I want to make sure that that business certificate that was filled out honestly about what was the business that was going to be run, and that if it was approved based on honest statements, and now we're going to turn around and say, well, that if the business certificate is what Mr. Sergi says it is, and the town was aware that these vehicles were going to be there, and we approved that, then I think we're in a little bit of a pickle in terms of, the business certificate is incorrect. It needs to be revoked, and, I get all that, but that's a whole different process. So
Well, that is,
If I could,
If I could just address that, it seemed to be coming my way. Mr. Burke, we're only giving Mr. Burke or Mr. Ether the authority to enforce the law. Tomorrow, Mr. Burke will go back to his office, or maybe he'll go tonight, and look at that business certificate. He will determine. We're only giving him the authority to pass on the punishment. If he finds tomorrow that the town gave somebody a business certificate to store salt on their property and let that leach into an aquifer, I'd be pretty surprised.
I would
so
too. I would
it's
too,
up to Mr. Burke and Mr. Ethia, not up to us. We're giving him the authority to enforce the zoning laws and to apply a penalty where due. If he gets there tomorrow and finds that we did do that, then he won't apply the penalty.
and if I could just add to that, please, for one moment. Both Mr. Sergi and Mr. Burke have said that the business certificate says landscaping. Landscaping and salting and sanding and plowing are not the same thing. So they both have sat here and told us that the business certificate says landscaping. The violation is for salting and sanding. I don't really care what the business certificate says.
But
I
no,
think that we have a clear violation
ask a
here,
question?
as Mr. Holmes has stated, and I think we should move forward on this.
but we can't prove at least I haven't heard, and I did have one more question for Mr. Burke. On 125, you said complaints lodged and initial inspection conducted. Were those complaints by telephone, email? Are they in writing? Are they specific to?
They were in person by two different individuals, and email from the chief that was forwarding an email from another. He forwarded her email to me, and I expressed to him back that we were already engaged in working on it. And
So 3.
And these individuals witnessed the presence of salt,
yes,
and did you yourself?
that there was certainly salt on the ground and salt in and on the trucks, because that's what they were doing. They were working for the town and had salt and sand in their trucks. They're sanders that are in these plows. So, and I talked to Mr. Sergi, and he was what I thought was cooperative and understood that, you know, that would be a problem and would remove the trucks. But and let me just say, I mean, the fine, you know, we can work. I did leave my card in his door the other day. I don't just issue fines because somebody came in and said, oh, we were going to rent the apartment in the basement and he has an illegal apartment down there. We went to go and try and, so the, you know, the shed, I know Mr. Williams spoke to you, Andy Williams was working on that, the other building inspector, as well as the basement apartment. You know, that wouldn't be involved. I just wanted them to move the trucks immediately, and then we could work on the other issues. I don't have a problem with giving, and if it was built out space as a bonus room or whatever, and it's for family use, as we said earlier, it's fine. You know, we can work with that. That wasn't the nature of the complaint, but we will follow up and do our due diligence on that as well.
Mr. Sergi.
The complaint came from Mark. They were homeless. I told them they could stay in the 2 rooms downstairs until they found a place. Then it didn't work out, and I told him he had to leave. That's where the complaint came from. I don't have a problem with you coming looking at it anytime. Just let me know I'm home after 4.
Okay, so we have
Or
2
3:30.
separate issues. We have
Okay.
the
Yeah.
construction, and we have the sand and trucks and in a zone 2 area that has not been addressed.
Now the salt, there's no storage of salt on that property. Absolutely none. So that's the violation. The salt on the trucks, I sand, salt, plow, Charge Pond Road, every road off of Charge Pond Road, Sarah Beth. I sand, I salt, I plow. That's what I'm told to do.
You're told to salt those roads?
Yep. He's my driver.
Oh, I wasn't questioning whether he was telling me the truth. I just
That's what
wanted to
I'm
make
told to
sure I
do.
heard what he said.
I'm told to do it. That's what I do. They tell us not a lot. Cut back the spinner because it's an aquify area, but that's what we do. How can I get fined, violated for something that the town tells me to do?
Nobody's suggesting that you would be fined for doing your job. What
That's
the suggestion
one of my
being fined
violations.
is for storing the trucks, including the salt and sand. Not the
There's
sand,
no
the
salt.
It's on the trucks, right?
There's none on the trucks in my yard. There's leftover from driving down the road, little embers on the side of the trucks, on the tire, you know? Like yourself driving down the road after they salt the road, you get salt on your car. What do? You park it in your driveway. You have salt on your car now. So you're going to violate me for having salt on my trucks? Yes, I understand it's a sanded truck. It has probably a little more than average, but I take care of it. I bring it to a place. We rinse them down a day or 2 after the storm. Then we bring them back to the property. That's why some of these violations that you guys have are false accusations. So that's why I went and got my representation, because we got pictures, documents. I got
There's a motion and a second on the floor that the gentleman be given 96 hours to rectify the situation, after which time the fine as stated in the
I think it was
regulations,
Up to
Article
3.
1432-1 and 1432-2 be implemented. All in favor? Yes, that's what it says in section 1432-2. That's correct.
Correct.
Thank you for the Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Holmes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? It's 400 in favor. Am I correct in my count?
Mhm.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Thank you.
So I got one quick question. If I make a complaint for the same thing that I have, who do I do that to? Him?
Mhm.
Alright, 'cause I got 32.
Don't forget your letter, Mr. Surgery.
Thank you, Mr. Burke, through you, Madam Chair. Guy? Madam Chair, if I could continue
Mr. Andrews, please.
expeditiously, yes. Item 2 and item 3 I'll take up in one fell swoop. I asked Mr. Campina to come up and to assist. He, as well as other members of working with our water department, wastewater department, have come up with a couple of researching ideas. If we could just expeditiously get that out there. I also just wanted to say, taking up number 3 at the same time, it was a pleasure to come out to meet with you and see the students from Wareham High School, their enthusiasm, and a number of other places, I might add, but their particular enthusiasm and work in the field of environmental sciences, hoping to get into your field someday, was very rewarding to me. And as a town administrator, I wanted to say on behalf of the board, it was very well received. A number of the students asked very good questions. I know they stumped me at several points, but maybe, Guy, you can wrap those 2 items up in the same report.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Andrews, to you, Madam Chair, and the board. We had the students out from Upper Cape, including students from the town of Wareham in that group, and it was really fascinating. A couple of the students were competing in a lab contest in the state of Massachusetts, looking to go on to the nationals. And they were very enthusiastic about their visit. They asked really good questions, and it was exciting to do. Upper Cape is taking on initiative of allowing or helping these students take a test after high school for a wastewater license, and I think that's a terrific thing. It's unusual. Most of us are in this field by default, and it's good to see young minds wanting to get into this field, because as we old farts go away, there's got to be young kids coming up to take over, and this is really exciting. They were also here today with us. They had 13 seniors. They were at the plant again today, and we gave them a complete tour because they're closer to preparing for their tests. We've also said that if they have any specific questions relating to the tests, come back, we'll answer them. We'll take them to the apparatus they may be studying to facilitate them passing their tests. We're pretty excited about that. So,
Thank you, Mr. Campina. Would you like to address the board regarding the application for the grant for the intern?
yes, what I'm doing is I'm applying for a grant. The AD Makepeace Company has a grant for Wareham, and I'm applying for a grant to bring in 2 students from Upper Cape in the environmental program to work at our facility for the summer. So I'm going to fill out the paperwork. It's pretty exciting. Someday I'd like to see a co-op program. Someday I'd like to figure out how to finance that, but I'd like to see a co-op program because these kids do have a ton of knowledge, ton of interest, and I think that we have a beautiful plant. It meets all the requirements as tertiary, as all, primary, secondary, tertiary, all the things that these kids could possibly study. So moving forward on that, the grant. And
Was
I'll
I
have
to understand that you needed the permission of the board in order to apply for the grant?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to entertain I'd entertain a motion by the board to allow me to sign the paperwork appropriate for the grant, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I can.
So moved, second.
I'll
Somebody?
second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's 300. Thank you, board, and thank you, Mr. Campino.
Thank you.
Just quickly on the CMS project, if you could just give us an update.
CMAS, what I was talking to Mr. Andrews, what I'd like to see permission for the town to move forward and send a letter off to CMAS. They're a local incinerator in Rochester. And what I would like to see or pursue is I would like to give them 150,000 gallons per day of our effluent. Right across from our receiving water, there's a trail line. That rail line goes right to CMAS, and they take trash there every single day. Put a couple tankers out there, ship them some water. They use the water for cooling. There's some issues of them taking water from the aquifer. They're trying to get water other ways, and this would be a great asset to them. It was suggested I discuss this with the DEP. They thought it was a great idea, and they suggested that we do pursue this. And I'm asking Mr. Andrews and asking the board if we could do that, and I could use his help to start the dialogue, sit down with CMAS, negotiate something, and try to get something hard in writing, commit them for many years, take that flow out of the river, and of course increase our capacity because we're removing pounds from the river of loading, so increase the capacity for the town to do other projects to continue business or residential sewering of the community, whatever it may be. So that's what I'm in the process of, and Mr. Andrews has been really gracious to try to help me out.
That's an excellent initiative. Thank you again.
Thank you, Guy, very much.
Thank you.
I think we're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could hold on item number 4, Mr. Pichette could not be here tonight. If I could put that on for the next agenda.
Certainly.
Thank you. As an update you have in your packet tonight, I did appoint on Friday, February 11th, Susan Green as the Acting Council on Aging Director, effective Monday, February 14th. And as of this morning, we had actually a series of meetings with staff, with volunteers, and we had a great meeting this morning that I think Susan will work on a number of initiatives that will prove very, very productive in the coming weeks and months. Item number B, if I could, Jackie Lindsay from the Wareham Village Association and Mary Lou Payton from the Onset Association attended on my behalf, along with Harbor Master and Assistant Harbor Master Gary Buckminster and Jamie McIntyre, as plugging in to the Cape Cod Canal 100th year anniversary program. It's a very energetic program, and we are trying to weave in, per Member Ekstrom's notation, the 275th anniversary program in some type. We're about 20-something months, 27 months away, but that planning is going forward, and I wanted to keep the board updated. On Wednesday, February 16th, I convened a meeting in my office with Director Mark Gifford and members after we presented the dam report from the State Auditor's Department. We shared that information with Mr. George Rogers, Doug Beaton, and Jeff LaFleur of the Cape Cod Cranberry Growers Association to get their input, to get their insight as to how best to move forward on our emergency dam preparation action planning, and I will keep the board posted. I'm happy to say under item D, for the past several weeks, and we have 3 teams out, we did today, but between February 12th and the 16th, we attacked 25 streets, as many potholes that we could get to get some of the gaping holes filled in. I know there are plenty more to go, and we have our work cut out for us, but I did list the streets that we did, and we attempted to close 600 potholes in the area of roadways that are attached to the list, and I'm sure that there are plenty more to go. We'll keep working at it.
Madam Chair, if I may, through you to Mr. Andrews.
Surely.
They were out. They had a crew out today on Glen Charlie near Agawam Lake Shores.
Sure.
It was a 2-man crew.
Wareham Lake Shores.
Wareham Lake Shores, sorry. And they were trying to fix holes that were in the middle of the road, but there was no traffic detail with them at the time.
Okay.
So what was happening was they were shoveling, I'm guessing they're using cold patch, but
It's a specialized cold patch.
okay.
Madam Chair.
So, but it's very rocky.
Yes.
But because the traffic was coming, they were just kind of shoveling it and having to, move out of the way.
Okay.
So there was an awful lot of rocks on the road, and I know my windshield got hit with one, and I heard several others as, they were passing by. So is it possible for us, when they're repairing those middle-of-the-road potholes, to have a cop out there to stop that traffic?
Let me look at that, because if it is in the middle of the road, we should have some type of safety net in place.
That's what I thought, so I was kind of
Generally.
surprised to...
And we shouldn't be kicking up. Was that a truck or something that came by that pushed up the
Well, no, what it was they walked to fill the hole, but
Yep.
there's traffic it's a very busy area
Sure.
with traffic during all times of the day.
Okay.
So they, kind of filled the hole, and then they had to move out of the way, but they didn't get a chance to,
get to the-
get everything packed in appropriately. So there was a lot of rocks, and then, of course, it was a truck that came by, because there's a lot of trucks, as you know,
Surely.
that come down that road. So that kicked everything up in the...
I will talk with Mr. Gifford about that in the morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Madam, item E, if I could, on last Friday, the 25th, there's a series of programs that our insurance agent, Meyer, under the MMA, Mass Municipal Association, is putting on. I attended the Mass Commission Against Discrimination's program on addressing workplace discrimination, and it was very well presented by Mr. Johnny Lane, who works for the Mass Commission Against Discrimination, and I found it refreshing to get new information up and running. I intend to share it with our department heads at the next leadership team meeting, not this week, but next week. On status report activity, we are working to close down the Financial Management Action Plan, and I will have documentation for you forthcoming. The Cranberry Commons Task Force did not meet this past week, so I will work on an update for you there, but I have been in touch with Mr. Peter Ferry, who is the owner of the property. I will keep you updated on negotiations with the Chief of Police. The Model Recreation Program is still in design, and we are trying to see if we could team up, as I've indicated in the past, with the town of Dartmouth to get an expanded recreation program, and I am still working on that. Kind of a timely matter, we are working to find software update to be able to get the town clerk's office and the building department to work on business certificate compliance, which I know has been a hot topic. The Land Donation Review Task Force is in process. We're meeting after each leadership team meeting every Wednesday as a matter of record. And as you know, we're monitoring the governor's budget recommendation with the House Ways and Means Committee, working on setting their timeline for the release of their own document. In your packet, you should have an update on safety issues relative to the Deacon School, which is an ongoing matter, from Mr. Gifford. When we can get some decent weather in the next couple of weeks or perhaps month, we intend to get the crosswalks down, as we had indicated. And also, lastly, in your packet, under library certification, you should have a copy of the waiver approval, which has been approved by the state, and also a letter with regards to funds to be paid to the town of Wareham. And that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
If I may, Madam Chair, just a quick question. Mr. Andrews, on the award letter from the Board of Library Commissioners,
Yes.
that's the amount that they're showing here is $6,911.02. Is that half, or is that half of what we're receiving, or approximately half? Because it says the second payment will be sent to the town.
I believe that you are correct, yes.
Okay, so even at that,
About- Yeah, it's lower than what we had
That's what I was
received in
just
the
gonna
past.
say,
About
even-
$18,000 last year. So we're going to be a little bit light there.
that's what I was going to say, is that they don't know what the second one will be, but
Right.
based on this, we're down to less than $14,000 if they're equal, and the second one may not be as high as this one.
We're off from that $18,000 number
Right.
that we have loaded in the budget for this current fiscal year. You are correct.
Right, I just wanted to make the people be aware of that,
Yes.
Things are being trimmed everywhere. Thank you.
Yes, you may.
Through you to Mr. Andrews. I think I was one of the ones several months ago who asked, not necessarily for blue paper, but for a report.
Sure.
And I can understand, you and I have talked about this, so it's nothing that I'm hitting you with in the face. Things like financial management action plan, ongoing. I understand that. Cranberry Task Force, ongoing. Understood. You're working on the recreational program, ongoing.
Yes.
Understand.
Yes.
So on and so forth. Chief of Police, I don't understand. And I'd like to see something maybe in the next 2 weeks where ongoing becomes a date. I know in your mind you must have a date. I mean, summer's coming. We have a part-time chief. You know I like him, so it's not an issue of Rick.
Sure.
But we need to have a full-time chief.
Mhm.
You know that's the goal, whether it's him or it's somebody else. And I'd like to see something happen in this column instead of ongoing, right?
Sure.
You know, I know that you've sent in the paperwork for the assessment management program, so that we can do that piece, right?
That's correct.
And maybe you could put that on this list so that every
Okay.
week you don't just say ongoing. You know, I'll keep you posted on the chief. You could let people know that you've put that paperwork in for that program, things like that, Mark. That's
Surely.
all I'm suggesting.
No,
to
I
you.
understand. It's a very
But
valid
I
point.
think at some point, you know, some detail other than,
Sure.
you know what I'm saying?
I
I'm
don't-
not trying to be a wise guy.
Oh, no, no, I know you're not.
Okay.
But we have had dates in the past, and I will work to
Yeah.
hone that down. to-
Especially on that one, because
Okay.
that's really important, especially as we're getting ready to gear up for the summer season.
Surely.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I
Mrs.
just have one
Extra.
more thing. I know that we didn't address number 4 because Dave Pichette couldn't be here. And just, I don't know if the board had some type of appetite to even look at that, that I would, I mean, and hopefully David would be able to come in, but I know that there are selectmen that unfortunately will not be here next week, and
I'll
if
hold
there-
it until, excuse me, Madam Chair.
well,
until-
well, my concern is
Sure.
though that if we had an appetite and if community preservation had an appetite
Sure.
and conservation, we would have to get it on a warrant article. So if any of the selectmen that will not be here next week could review anything on, on wickets,
Sure.
and then maybe perhaps give you their impression on whether is something that they would be favorable, so that we wouldn't keep them out of the process of the discussion with Mr. Pichette. Or maybe they could perhaps talk to Mr. Pichette in the next few days and then give you their impression, so that if there is an opportunity for us to go forward with it at town meeting, we don't run out of the deadline before we're all back together. Or
Surely.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Winslow.
since I'm the selectman that will be absent next week and I already did my homework, would you like me to I only had one real comment.
About wickets?
Sure. And I will also be out of town next week, Mrs.
Oh,
Winslow.
okay.
I didn't know you were going to be. I'm sorry.
Oh.
And Mrs. Winslow's daughter is having surgery next week,
Oh.
so that's why she'll be absent, so it's definitely a
Lucky number
valid, legitimate.
Lucky number 10 for her. She's a trooper. And she's watching, so.
Good luck, Savannah.
Yeah, I'm sure she's saying thank you. Mr. Andrews,
Surely.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think, we're in a financial pickle, and my initial reaction to it was no. But the more I thought about it, I thought, I'd really like to see something from the planning department, from someone that tells me why this would be valuable to the community as a whole, because at the end of the day, we're asking the community to spend their dollars in some of the worst fiscal times that we've ever seen. So that's
yeah.
what I'd want. I'd want to see a pretty thorough explanation of what the real value is to us.
Your point is well taken. And by the way, the only reason why I asked for Mr. Bichette to be here is that I asked him to
Tricks.
to look at this and put the report together along with John Charbonneau in the planning department. But here's what it comes down to. We're in touch with Dan Bertram. I have been in touch with him, and the prospect came up, and it's a concept. Once again, it's the idea. When would we get another chance at looking at an island? And we met with Mr. Bertram. He was kind enough to come up from Western New York and meet with the entire leadership team and talk with us about the concept of what would the Wickeds Island mean to us if we had an interest, if we wanted to go a certain route to at least do our diligence on it. And that's really what it pertains to. So we had a very robust and very detailed discussion at leadership team. I wanted to report to this board so that you heard that he was kind enough to come up and to talk with us about it. And, of course, the island has a ton of history and a lot that goes with that, and a lot of logistics, because we had a lot of good discussion with the harbor master and the conservation agent and the planning director as to how and what would be our interest. And you're right on target. Do we have an interest? We haven't even discussed anything about the prospect of how would you move forward and how would you preserve it if you intended to, or to try to get some type of site control. That's the idea behind it.
And I was going to say, and I just didn't want it to be that I was in favor or against. It was just in the tight physical times, I thought the only possible way that we would be able to afford it would be if we went through community preservation for historical preservation and open space recreation. And so that is the only reason why I thought that if there's an appetite or any information or opinions on it, at least feed that, because I don't really think that there would be a way that we would be able to write a check out of the town coffers for it, just, to have it, as much as we might like to. So that was, and I don't even know if community preservation, I know that they have deadlines and stuff, but for something like this, I know that historical and open space is something that's, near and dear to their heart. And like you said, this is a very unique opportunity. So that was the only reason why I had brought that up. So.
Through you, Madam Chair, both points are well taken. Once again, it was just a point of information that the leadership team, including all the members I talked about, discussed it. We didn't talk about a price. We didn't talk about, any recommendations. Just talked about what the prospect would be, what it would mean to the town. And how often do you get to buy an island?
It's and it is, for a point of clarification, Madam Chair, Mr. Andrews put this on the report. He is discussing the island, not the bar.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Holmes.
Yeah, well, it needed to be clarified because there were certain individuals this week who thought he was buying a bar.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, Mr. Holmes.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, let's, how about if we jump on the agenda for to the folks who are here for the Walmart discussion. I apologize that the meeting has run so long, and I know you've been waiting patiently to discuss the sewer capacity for Walmart. Would you like to come forward, please? Mr. Campina as well. Would you please identify yourselves for the record, and again, thank you for your patience this evening.
No problem. Thank you. My name is Steve DeCourcy, and I work for Bowler Engineering. We're the civil engineering consultant on behalf of...
Could you speak into the mic a little bit more?
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Steve DeCourcy. I work for Bowler Engineering, and we're the civil engineering consultant on behalf of Walmart on the project. With me is Tara Calabrese, who's been working with this all the way through. John Cusick, who's the engineer from Bowler Engineering, who's been on this for most of the time, couldn't make it here tonight, so he asked me to come and be here on his behalf. As I understand it, as part of the Walmart relocation, a letter was sent to the Board of Selectmen in September of last year requesting capacity, along with some calculations showing the anticipated capacity that was needed in an effort to determine whether there would in fact be capacity available. As I understand it, between then and where we are today, a number of ideas have been kicked around, and I think I'd ask Tara to kind of maybe fill in the details a little bit. And for really at the end, we were just interested in finding out what the status was relative to capacity, and if we could confirm it's available, and if not, what we might need to do to get to that end. So I'd ask now, I think, Tara to take it from there for a moment.
Thank you, and welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Tara Calabrese for the record. I've had extensive conversations with Guy with regard to the sewer capacity. I know that the board was waiting for a report to be done. I attended a hearing, I think, a couple months back where that report was presented. It's my understanding that there is the capacity available. In discussions that we've had, it's been suggested that an expansion tank would be appropriate. Walmart finds that to be a good idea as well, and we're here tonight to just see where the town stands with regard to their decision for that capacity request.
Thank you. Mr. Campina, would you like to elaborate on your recommendations, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. From a position of the wastewater and the stream, and that's all I'm speaking, not supporting or denying Walmart, please understand that. I've dealt with Walmart in the past as far as their grease and products they have in their facilities, and they're a very, very responsible company as far as wastewater goes, so I have no problem with them in that end of it. If they were to get capacity, I'd ask for, and I gave you a list of things that I would probably consider or ask them to do for us. I definitely want an equalizing tank. It would be 2 times their daily flow, so we could regulate their flow. It would be less minimum impact to our system. And I also want that programmable, so there'd be no mistakes. Somebody would leave a pump on or not put it off. The program would put it on at a specific time, probably off-peak hours. It would come on, no greater than 60 gallons per minute, slowly go through, on-off hours, come through our pump stations and minimize our impact. I would like a minimum of 5,000 gallon day grease trap, 5,000 gallon grease trap. I understand that they're going to probably sell groceries. There's going to probably be some preparation of food. Those things concern me. So I'd like to have a really good sized grease trap. I want that grease trap pumped regularly. Within a couple of months of opening, if they do open, I would like to be up there with myself, Inspection Services, Mr. Ethier, and even representatives from Walmart to see what that grease trap is actually producing and what the frequency of pumping would be. I'd also like to see somebody local maintaining that tank. Historically, in my experience, Walmart hires a national company, and they leave the local guys out of the business, and that upsets me a little bit. I'm not telling them how to run their business, but I would suggest strongly that someone from Wareham be able to take care of that task. The equalizing tank itself, it would be vented if it creates any odors. I would strongly suggest that they repair that. There's certain things they can do for odor mitigation. I would require that. If there's any complaints, I'd be right down there and make sure that was taken care of. I concern myself with odors. And by pumping every night, I'm suggesting that it should not happen, but if it does happen, I'll hold them responsible. That's going to be their responsibility, not ours. Now, there's certain things that I may not have thought about. We've got a pump station being updated now through AD Makepeace. When they're completed, maybe something I forgot. So I've asked for an escrow, and that's to be determined. Something we can throw around, what's appropriate. And I'd like to have somebody set aside for any unforeseens. There's some I can't think of it all. There's probably something I missed. There should be a good amount in the escrow fund that would go towards this. And then any other suggestions that we have. Now, this is just a real quick. And there's probably other things that I would come up with as time progresses that would definitely impact the wastewater treatment plant. Like I would probably require or ask them for some safety equipment that goes into checking that pump station, things of that sort. But I don't have a complete list, and this is what I had at this particular point in time. So again, to reiterate, I have no problem with them tying in, but that's not my call. We do have capacity. I think they're asking for 9,000 gallons. I would like that 9,000 gallons to be an equalizing tank up to 18,000 gallons to hold that, and then give it to us slowly to minimize our impact. And that would be my recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Campina. Does anybody have any questions for either Tara or Mr. Campina?
Sure. I'm a part of. I'm sorry. They were asking for 9,000 gallons, and we have that capacity according to our report, 9,000 gallons. So as far as I said, my position is that the gallons are, I would support that. The gallons are available. It's commercial revenue, and by putting certain things into place to minimize the impact of the treatment plant and to the infrastructure, I think it would be good gallons to have. That's just my opinion, and of course what the board decides to do. And this is strictly from a wastewater perspective only. And I really want to emphasize that.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
Mrs. Ekstrom?
Thank you. Mr. Campina, do we still not have any number on what the what the gallon request for the B-Dod 2 is?
I have no request. No, I actually, I don't have any answer to that. I
So we
know.
don't really know if we have gallonage because we are required under contract with that we are to provide them sewerage.
Well, I would suggest strongly that cannot be left open. If we have an open number, then we need to close that gap, because there's no way I can commit to anybody unknown gallons for unknown. And if that's out there, I think I strongly suggest we get a hold of that, just say, hey, these gallons, this is all we have, or pull it off the table. I'm not too sure how it came about, but I got to tell you, I don't like the idea. I can't live with just whatever you use. That doesn't cut it for me.
Well,
I'm sorry, I'm not
No,
totally
no,
up to
no,
it.
no, no,
I haven't read it, but I apologize.
No, I certainly agree with you, and I have been made the villain time and time again because I have asked this question. It is something that I strongly recommend that we, I believe the last time when we were giving out gallonage, so we wouldn't stand in the way of a development, that it was requested that we sit down with that business to discuss the particulars of the B-Dod 2. The people in front of us at the time had agreed to sit down, and I think that was the last time we heard from them. So I certainly should not, nor do I want to be part of those discussions, but I strongly suggest, I got 5 weeks left, I strongly suggest that you guys get a number on that, because
Absolutely.
if not, you're going to be in for a royal surprise. And I've been trying to get that since 2008, and I strongly suggest you get the number, or you guys are going to be the ones that are in a lot of trouble. And Walmart, whether I agree or disagree with you going across town, which, by the way, I disagree because I live on the other side, and it's going to be a barren wasteland. But regardless of that, I have concerns that if we're going to give out, we denied a housing development down the street because we didn't have capacity, or so we thought, because we're trying to prepare for this, or be ready for this. And with that unknown out there, I strongly suggest that before we give away large gallons, that we find out.
Well taken. If you give me the particulars, I'll definitely get the answer for you. And once I get the answer, I think we should sit down and decide how we're going to close that loop.
I'll get it for you.
Okay.
It was a town meeting vote that gave them this, and the contract, the agreement is a 100-year contract.
For unlimited gallons.
That we would provide sewerage. It's a 300-acre parcel, but my understanding is 65 acres of upland. So it's not unlimited unless you can figure out whatever you can build on 65 acres. It could be substantial. So
absolutely,
it's definitely something that needs to be addressed.
Well, I would strongly suggest that it would be as available. What I'm hearing is that no matter what we do, we've got to make those gallons available. So that means that puts the town of Wareham at a dead standstill. We do nothing, and because we got to reserve it for someone else. I have a problem with that, and if the time they come, if there's nothing available, so be it. But I don't want to stop progress because we have this certain unknown, and I hear what you're saying, but if there's nothing available when they come, then that's just there's nothing available, and I don't understand the vote. So
actually, I was going to say, although I know that you were talking about the 150,000 gallons, and that you and I had earlier talked about, coming up with other ways to, reduce the gallonage that's going out to the water. I mean, there could also be something like that, because they didn't. I'll get you the contract, but there are some grave concerns, and if they're not addressed,
I'd like to address them, and if they're going to do that much of an acreage, they could probably put the water on their own property.
Madam Chair? While I appreciate my colleague's concern, I do think that a number of times we've been given some, some rough numbers on, on the BDOT project, and the last time they were here, they did offer, after Selectman Holmes had asked them to come in and rediscuss that, but they're not here tonight. So my feeling on this to the Walmart people is that you're here before us for a sewer permit, and if Mr. Campina tells us that we have that we can take the flow, and Walmart is willing to agree to what Mr. Campina wants, then that's what we're here to do. And he's the person who's ultimately responsible for the treatment plant. So I'm going to, since I don't know that much about sewer, I'm going to defer to him on that. I'm not sure if you're asking us tonight to give you this, or I'm a little bit confused by some of the, or are you just looking for us to tell you that, because it's difficult for us to sit here tonight and say we can or can't do this because we don't have, maybe you can clarify.
Sure. I think at this point tonight we'd like to find out what the next steps would be to go ahead and get a final approval so that we can move forward and make sure we understand what the sanitary sewer need design should be. And I think with some of the information we've heard tonight relative to the expansion tank and all of the other different pieces, that takes us in that direction. And then I guess maybe my next question, and just to clarify, the gallonage that we put in the letter that we sent in last September was actually 9,635
Thank you.
gallons. What we would need to do coming out of this to get to the next step and, again, finalize having the sewer capacity.
Thank you for the clarification. Mr. Holmes? Okay. Well, I think that if you were looking for your next steps and you're willing to comply with the conditions as they've been laid out so far by Mr. Campina, and we are looking for some sort of an estimate for the BDOT property. You have several, my understanding is you have several more hearings with the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Madam Chair, if I may, it's come up at both of our hearings to date that we do not yet have our approval for sewer capacity, and that is an issue for both the zoning and planning board members. And so the sooner that this is addressed, the more comfortable the other boards would be. And so that if it is possible to request an approval with the conditions that Mr. Campino has written to you, even this evening, at that point we can review, and if the conditions weren't acceptable, we can certainly come back to the board. But I think that Mr. Campino and I have had conversations, and with Bowler Engineering, and that would allow us to rectify. Our next hearing in front of the joint ZBA and planning board is in April, and it would be helpful if we can get back to those boards prior to with this issue addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. I have another question for you. I'd like to know where in the process you are of finding a replacement for your store located in East Wareham.
Certainly, I can address that as well. Walmart has a very active leasing program or resale program. We had actually met with Mr. Andrews and had a conference call with the Walmart executives in Bentonville. At this point, because it is an unknown as to when that store would actually be vacated or if it would be vacated, we can't actually give you a date as to where we stand with regard to marketing it. Walmart typically starts their marketing 12 months before their grand opening date of a new store. An active marketing program that they reach out to other retailers that they have identified as likely tenants. I will note that, and I think Mr. Andrews can concur, that during our conversation, the Walmart marketing person let us know that there are no vacant Walmart stores in the Northeast, in his region. So I think that speaks volumes to their efforts. I know that Plymouth has come up in Cordage Park, but that actually has been resold, and it's the present owners. Walmart does not own that building any longer.
Thank you. The reason I asked the question is because currently you're using 6,000 gallons per day over at the existing Walmart store, and I was just curious as to what sort of reuse might go in there, and if it would be comparable or somehow replace the use of the new store. So typically, what kind of retailers come in and take the store? Would they?
That's a very fair question, and it could indeed be a retailer quite similar to Walmart. They often market to wholesale retailers as well, so we wouldn't expect that it would be any more, but it certainly has potential to be less. It's an unknown. They oftentimes fill their stores with furniture wholesalers, but I believe, and Steve, maybe you want to comment more on how the calculations are prepared for retail in general, which is general retail that Walmart is calculated on.
Sure. There's the basically it's all done by Title V. Different uses and different retail uses sometimes have different levels of sanitary sewer that they have to be designed for. A restaurant is probably the highest use in terms of the gallons per day, and as Tara was saying, more likely we'd see a dry retailer in a replacement of a Walmart store given the size and configuration of that, which is really a low number when it comes to gallons per square foot or gallons per thousands of square feet for a site.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes.
Through you, just to clarify, in the existing Walmart building, Walmart owns the building and leases the land. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So Walmart actually owns that building.
Yes, that is correct. Walmart owns the building.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to ask you.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair, I would suggest, since their next hearing is until April, that we gather the information that we need regarding the BDOD before we make a decision on sewer capacity, because they're essentially asking us to give them the sewer, and there's still some variables that we need to take into account.
What's the pleasure of the board? Is that a motion or?
Yeah, I could make it into a motion. I would make a motion that we put this on the agenda for 2 weeks from tonight, which would be the 15th of February. Oh, no, wait, March, sorry. And that we get some more information from 80 Makepeace about the BDOT and the gallons that they're going to be looking for.
Mr. Campina, Mr. Andrews, is that doable?
I believe we can get that report, and Guy, we can get the information together from the engineers and put into some formal document. But to get that background information, I'm sure we can handle that, Madam Chair.
I think I can press also. I want to press with some actual hard numbers, and I don't know. I have to read it, but I got to tell you, I'm not unhappy with an unknown number, and I want to press them to a number because, in essence, they're holding us hostage, and I don't like that. If that's the case, if they hold us hostage, I want to be sure.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Holmes.
It's not doable in 2 weeks. I was gonna. Is there a motion here?
Well, I was gonna make a motion, but if you have a motion, then.
No, I don't have a motion. I was going to discuss the question in front of us, and I was going to suggest that we had a conversation here one night, and that I would call Mr. Hogan tomorrow and set up another meeting between us, the board, the sewer commissioners, Mr. Andrews, Mr. Campini, and Mr. Hogan and his people, and let's sit down together as we agreed to do and come up with a number. You're not going to get this done in 2 weeks. It's not a phone call to say we're gonna change an existing contract over the phone. to say, well, we only need 100,000 gallons or whatever the number is. That's not going to happen over the phone. We need to get a meeting together and discuss this as a Board of Sewer Commissioners. So it's not doable in 2 weeks, I'm sure.
Madam Chair, what happens if we don't have the gallons that they need existingly?
Sorry?
Suppose, what happens if the existing gallons we have is not enough for them?
Well, then we'll have to deal with that when we find out what that is. That's why we need a meeting to discuss it. I don't think it's not as simple as a phone call.
Well, I agree with Selectman Holmes. I mean, there are some numbers that, you know, the last time they were here and they gave us an update on the project, they, in this conversation came up, they did, you know, give us some ideas of, you know, the types of tenants that they were looking for, and
We're talking about the 65 acres that that no development is planned on yet, though.
The
We're not
B.2,
talking,
not
we're
the
talking about
B.1.
B.2. We're not talking about the Rosebrook Park development and all that. We
But
already
we-
know what that is.
But,
we touched
Madam
on
Chair, no, there's an existing contract in place
Mhm.
between the town.
Right.
And nobody's trying to hold anybody hostage. Let's not use words like that. That doesn't help. And that's why I say let me work through Mr. Andrews, get this meeting reset for the sewer commissioners to meet with Mr. Campini, Mr. Andrews, the 5 of us, and Mr. Hogan and his representatives, and let's sit down, pull the book out, and let's go through it and try to resolve the issue. They were willing that night that we discussed it to close that loop. That
They
was
were.
in the agreement, and you know, and I take some blame for not following up on that as a sewer commissioner. So let me work on that and get back to you. Maybe by Tuesday we'll have a date. If it happens before that we can schedule something with your agenda, and we'll do that. As soon as I get a date, I'll get it to you. But it's not going to happen in the next week or two. We're talking about a huge contract between the town and Makepeace.
I would say
One
that
sentence.
that sounds like the best idea to me. Is we should probably
And you folks don't need an answer in the next. I mean, your next hearing with zoning is when, in 6 months?
It's in April.
It's in April.
Second.
You know, I think you have other obstacles to face with them, other than
Oh.
this issue, correct? I mean, you don't need this
That is
issue
correct.
resolved before you go back to them, do you?
No, we
Would
will
like
still go
to.
back to them, but it's been brought up on several occasions. But no, you're correct. It does not have to be resolved.
Right. And so that we can take care of our business, and you can continue to go through the planning and zoning process, and you can at least tell them that you came before. I see members here tonight in the audience, so you can at least tell them that you're working with the Board of Selectmen on coming up with approval for the sewerage. So the process has started, but we don't want to issue something out until we get the first piece cleared up with Makepeace, and we'll get that done in short order. But it won't be in 2 weeks. Okay?
Well, let me toss this out for a hypothetical. We meet with the Makepeace Company. They need more capacity. Walmart doesn't get its permit. We don't give you a sewer permit. What will your plan B be? What would your plan B be?
Do you want me to answer that?
BB.
A wastewater treatment facility on site.
So you are prepared to do that.
Yes, we are.
Thank you, that's helpful to know. Okay, well, why don't we try to get something set up with the Makepeace Company by the 29th, for the 29th of March, and we will be back in touch with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your patience, and thank you.
Yes. I didn't get it to you. Let me just find out anything else. I'll get you.
8:15.
Absolutely.
Title 5. Okay, the next item that we need to go back to is to vote on the senior citizen tax work-off program policy.
Madam Chair, in your packet you have the senior work-off program background information under Chapter 59 of Section 5K for property tax liability reduction, and it's an annual vote of the board that we're looking for.
I'll make a motion to approve the senior citizen tax work-off program for 2011. I'm sorry, yeah, for 2011.
Second, but I do have a question.
Please ask.
Just for clarification, because this is the first time I've done it. When the applications come in, where are they funneled through, and who's making the decision as to a financial hardship?
The applications come in through the Council on Aging, and I'm inclined to leave it there for the time being. And the application of the requirements of it are by the director. I intend to work with Ms. Green on that. We had 61 participants last year, and I think it's going to come in just about that same amount for this year. There's a lot of return participants, and so we'll be looking at them individually so that they do meet the requirements of the statute.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's 4-0-0.
Madam Chair, if I could ask you on item C, just to hold that till next time around. The idea here was, if I could just real quick, was to get a surplus piece of surplus automobile, van, excuse me, that could be used possibly by cable television. We've asked them to go around town, to go to different places, and we're just looking for some way. If it's not being used, I will get the full background on the information for you for the next
By
meeting.
cable TV, you mean WCTV?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. We will hold that.
Please, thank you.
We have a correction to the contract 1 parcel in Parkwood Beach. Was assessed a betterment for which there was no sewer connection, and there was a parcel that does have a sewer connection that no betterment was assessed. So we just need to vote to correct the situation by recording the correct property and deleting the recording on the wrong property. And that requires a vote of the board. So it's a wash. Exactly.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Sorry, did you want to discuss?
I had a question.
I'm sorry.
Question's a wash, but the $15,010 is being taken away from one and put on another?
That's correct.
Right.
So we didn't lose $15,000?
No, we did not.
Mm-mm.
There are actually two parcels
That's why I
right
was
next
so
to each
quick.
other.
Oh, all right. Then my yes stands.
And the stub is in the right place. That's the good news. Okay, do we have any liaison reports?
Do. Oh. Assuming the assignment is in.
Well, actually, I should go to any other town business. I'm sorry. We'll jump back to liaison reports in a second. Any other town business? Mrs. Ekstrom? Mrs. Winslow? Mr. Holmes? Okay, then we'll go with liaison reports. Mr. Holmes?
I would, on the appointments group, we have an opening in June. It's April, so I wanted to make sure that we advertised known openings during this month of March. We have an opening available on the one opening on the cemetery committee. One of the folks on that group will not be looking for renewal. And we also have we'll have an opening on the clean water committee, opening in June as well. So we'll make those announcements today as per our policy is I get information from individuals who are not going to, who are not looking to be reappointed. We'll bring those up. So that's what I have for, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Anyone else
For liaison?
for liaison report?
Oh, I don't have, it wasn't really a liaison report. I just wanted to take a moment and thank everyone who turned out for the Stop the Violence, Increase the Peace rally Saturday night. It was, I guess we estimate about 200 people. Is that what? About 200 people came out, and it was. I thought it was a wonderful time, and it was really informative, and I think it did a lot to bring the community together. And just wanted to thank, within the program, Teddy Matthews. A lot of you know him as a young singer. He graced us with the national anthem. Jane Donahue and Kenny Fonts, who got up and had a few words. Wendy Montero, the aunt and godmother of Scotty Montero Jr., who was slain by senseless violence a year and a half ago, I think. Yeah. Mr. Andrews, Chief Stanley, and Chris Herron. And I think that he talked for about a half hour and really, I think, wowed us. But I wanted to give a special thanks also for the organizations, Bay Point Country Club, Dunkin' Donuts, Effie's Pizza, Fat Polly's, Cool Cone, Mark Anthony's, Minerva's, Move Wareham Forward, Nick's Pizza, Onset Youth Center, Plymouth County Sheriff's Department, Santoro's, Scotty Montero Jr. Foundation, SS Limousine Service, South Coast Hospitals, Target, Wareham's Boys and Girls Club, Wareham House of Pizza, and Wareham Junior Basketball Association, and the Wareham Lions Club. And then also to the school department, there was a problem with the building. We had to switch to the middle school at the last minute. And the custodians that did a great job pulling that off for us. Again, the entire police department. The one last thing that I want to say is that you may have seen it around. The Wareham Police Department has a text-a-tip line for anyone who is interested. It is totally anonymous. If you see something, say something. That what you do is you text to 274637, which spells out crimes if you have the old phone, and then you text Wareham PD and then put in your message, and it will be sent to the police department, and it's totally anonymous, but and so thank you to the finance committee and Mr. Andrews for helping to make that happen. But it was just a wonderful time. I hope we continue to keep this engaged. The people who won the drawing, they will be receiving their Target gift cards in the mail. What else do I have to say? I don't know. It was just a fantastic time. And the next time we have something, I really encourage everyone to come out because it really did show, when I was growing up, what community was. It really pulled that back together. So thank you all for participating.
I would like to add my special, sincere thanks to both members of the Board of Selectmen, Brenda and Steve, who worked tirelessly to pull this off and to get the organizations together and to start the program. I know that the program will continue on through the school department and through the Scotty Montero Foundation. There are some plans for long-term mentoring. I'd like to thank some of the clergy also. There were a number of clergy who came who are really hoping to foster the raising of awareness to increase the peace among the young people of our community. And it really was a very moving event, and it showed that we can pull together as a community in times of stress, and the police department has been fantastic in sending the message to the community and letting people know that this violence will not be tolerated in Wareham.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Holmes.
If I could just tag on the end of that, you know, when you thank people, you always forget somebody, right?
Right, and we don't want to do
So we don't want to do that.
Sorry.
But I would like to give a special howdy doody to the scavengers of the food. You know, David Begley. We went around on foot in the truck begging. Sue Noonan from Onset Village Music also worked with us, and I wanted to give Sean and Joey a little howdy doody for sitting in the back of David's truck for 3 hours. And then they ended up getting hot dogs as a gift for being so good. But no, you know, when you go begging, it's tough. But the businesses, and then somebody went begging to Dunkin' Donuts, and I'm not sure who that was. That's why I say.
Sheila.
But I did want to thank the scavenger committee. But, you know, when we went into the businesses, these businesses were supportive of this event and future events 100%. And to give the way they give, time after time after time, they all deserve a big howdy doody. And if it's okay with the board, I did have some thank you cards to send to those.
They can go with my certificates
the
of
food group.
appreciation. Yep.
And if it's okay with the board, I'll have Mr. Andrews sign them as the town administrator on behalf of the board.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then we'll get them in the mail out to the folks who gave that. Is that okay?
Thank you, Steve. That would
All
be
right.
wonderful.
Thank you very much.
And if you're going to say a shout out to Sean, then I'm going to say a shout out to Molly and Megan Schneider and Kennedy Ekstrom, who were so instrumental in handing out the programs for the evening. So.
And while we're talking about supportive businesses, I'd just like to take one moment here to express condolences on behalf of the town to the family of Biff Goyette, the owner of the Mill Pond Diner. He was a wonderful, generous businessman in our community for many, many years. He lost his battle with cancer this past week, and we are going to sorely miss him and his generosity, his big smile. Personally, I'll miss his big hug. And I just want to express, as I said, condolences on behalf of the town to his family. There are many grateful people out there for everything that he did for us. So there will be a memorial service for him at the Elks to be announced. So keep your eye on the paper. You won't want to miss being at his memorial service. Thank you. Is there anything else to come before the board
Motion
this evening?
to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's unanimous. Thank you and good evening.